This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by productivity authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and happy Monday, or whenever day you're listening to this amazing show. Welcome to the Game Changers audio experience with myself, Adam Strong. Yes, we are live on today's show. I love doing these live shows because we get to interact and engage with you guys that are listening to our multitude of platforms, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on LinkedIn, whether it be on Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is. But we just love engaging with you guys. So today's show is no different from any other show. In fact, this show is actually a fascinating show because we're going to be talking a lot about how to leverage, scale and grow your business through joint venture and partnerships and collaborations, right? We haven't really gone in deep on this show about that and how to really and we're going to be talking with a good friend of mine who I met actually on Clubhouse. I talk about Clubhouse a lot, and his name is Sohail Khan. Sohail is he's been in this game for about 15 or 20 years. He is the master of all joint ventures, strategic alliances, and collaborations. She's going to share with you guys some great tools, tactics. He's going to share some amazing stories with you guys and how you're effectively going to be able to take some of those tools and tactics and put it into your own business. I'm really looking forward to today's conversations. I really am. So I was going to say, for you guys that are listening in live, please do us a favor. If you have any questions, please use the comments in the comment section below, and we'll try and get through to your questions as much as we can because we got a lot of stuff to get through. We really have got a lot of stuff to go. So who is Sohail? So Sohail is basically the founder of the Joint Venture Group. He's an investor. As I mentioned to you, he also runs some amazing clubhouse rooms. There's one particular club that you guys need to check out. It's called the Pitch Room. And there are investors, angels in there. There's a venture capitalists in there. There's all sorts of people in there that love to hear people's pitches. And I tell you what, there's been a huge amount of the money that's been raised in those pitch rooms. They're absolutely fantastic. And they're right on ball. Previous to that, Sohail has also been in he also created an internet training business back in, I think it was around the 2000s, sold that to a IT company, which unfortunately is no longer around and lost everything pretty much. And now has really kind of using the joint venture model as such, blueprint as we like to call it. He's used that and leveraged it to its highest. And he set himself a big challenge of making himself $1 million using the joint venture blueprint that he's been using. And he actually did that in just 30 days. He actually raised $1.5 million in just 30 days using the joint venture blueprint. He's also the co-author of the book Guerrilla Marketing. I don't know if you remember that book, Guerrilla Marketing. Fantastic book. And back in 2017, only 4 years ago, he also sold his consultancy company for an undisclosed 8-figure sum. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, right? You need to make sure you've got your notebooks handy, because I can tell you now, if you don't have your notebooks handy, okay, you are doing yourselves injustice. All right. Honestly, you really are. But listen, I'm really looking forward to today's conversations. And like I said, if you have any questions, use the questions on the questions below, and also engage with us. We love that. We love that. Listen, put your hands together for my good buddy. Hopefully he's going to be there. Sohail Khan. Sohail.
Thanks for having me.
All good. So listen, I know that you've got a bit of you've been in the business world for a best part of 20 years. And I mean, it's interesting how you've kind of gone through those times and really leveraged joint ventures and acquisitions and partnerships over, for the last 20 years. Where did you discover this? I'd love to know more.
That's a good question. So I originally trained as an accountant. That was one of my, in my culture, your parents want you to become something. You're going to be an accountant, a lawyer, an astronaut. So I went down the route. I was very good at numbers when I was at school. I was a proper geek at school. So I pursued that, became an accountant, and then a management consultant. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and I didn't really enjoy it, to be honest with you. It was for me, I thought I had a calling, that there was more to the sitting in an office 9 to 5. So I left that high-paying job, and I pursued a career in IT, in information technology. So I wrote a thesis. The thesis was called "The Impact of the Internet on the Manufacturing Industry." I did my master's, and then my professor put my thesis online. And if you know, back then we didn't have search engines. We had things called bulletin boards, which shows you how old I am when it comes to the internet, right? And people started reaching out to me. Yeah, people started reaching out to me. I had internet companies, .com companies. I had investors reaching out to me saying, "Hey, read your thesis with a great interest. Come and talk to us about how you think this new thing called the internet is going to help us commercially." So there I was. Straight after I did my master's, going out and consulting with some very big companies. One of my first clients was a company you might have heard called QVC.com.
Yes.
I helped them with their e-commerce implementation many years ago, and from there, basically, it just happened. And one of the things that I did while I was consulting for these companies was I created a website where it was an e-commerce website, and we were selling PDF computer training courses. And basically, people would come to the website, they would select the PDF course they want, put it in their shopping basket, and then they would do the transaction online. So e-commerce basically was what it was called back then, and still is now. And it's amazing actually, because back then, 2008, 2009, it's quite amazing that now e-commerce is one of the biggest things on the planet, right? So we were doing this many years ago, and we started doing that. We started helping a lot of these companies, and this was basically in 1999, before the .com bubble burst, and before we had Y2K. So we had a lot of big .com companies paying us money, $40,000-$50,000 for which basically was internet consulting. And then the big bubble happened. It burst in 2000. We lost all our clients. We lost a lot of consulting clients, and obviously because of Y2K, no one wanted to work with computer consultants or IT consultants, because we were to blame for Y2K. Right. So we had to figure out what else can we do. So we had this little computer training website making us a couple of $1,000s a month. And that is when I came across a book early 2000 by who actually is one of my mentors, a guy named Jay Abraham. It was a book called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You Got. Yeah. And I highly recommend everyone listening to this, go out and get that book. That book inspired me and taught me the power of joint ventures and strategic partnerships. And what Jay said in that book really hit home. He said, you can actually approach someone and you can get them to promote and sell your product or service without any cost up front, and by applying their resources, right? Complementary resources. So for me, it's like, wow, this is amazing. We don't have to spend any money on marketing and advertising. We can grow a business by doing strategic partnerships. So the first partnership I did back in early 2000 was with one of the largest IT recruitment agencies in Europe. We approached them and said, hey, we've got this computer training website with all these computer training courses. Right now, you just have one revenue stream, and that is IT recruitment. Right now, there are no IT jobs because of Y2K. Let me show you how I can help you create an additional revenue stream. So I had a meeting with them. I said, and they said, what is it? I said, it's basically a strategic partnership, a joint venture. If you joint venture with us, and you can endorse our courses to your database. They had 100,000 IT professionals in their database. I said, nice. Whatever sales come through from that, we'll give you a percentage. So that was the first JV that I ever did, the first successful JV. And let me tell you, give you some numbers. In the first year of our little computer training website, we did about $50,000-$60,000. In our second year with this one strategic partnership, we went from $60,000 turnover to just under $400,000 turnover, just from one strategic partnership. So that for me was, wow, this is amazing. I've got to do more of these strategic partnerships. So that is where it all started from.
That's interesting. I love that. What a great story to kick it off. I love that, guys. And so that particular company, though, what was their database? Was it about sort of $500,000?
That company had 100,000 IT professionals on their database. So that was the first JV I did. And then let me tell you about some of the other stuff that I've done using JV. So the whole industry changed, and now people were doing video-based training. Okay, and this was 2002. So again, video-based training back in 2002, a video is all the rage now, especially video training. It's e-learning is again a big thing. So back then, people were creating video courses. We went out and we did some research, and the cost to create an e-learning module was astronomical back then. Nowadays it's easy. Everyone has a mobile phone. You can pick it up. You have an app. You can make videos. You can sell courses online. Back then we didn't have any of that. It was basically you need coders, you need software designers to design 3D learning. So we looked at the cost, and it was very expensive. And our competitors had over 150 video courses. We couldn't compete with that. So again, I went back to the book, Jay Abraham. And one of the things that Jay Abraham spoke about again was something called licensing. Licensing is an avenue for you to take something from somebody else that's proven and successful and license that product or service as your own, right? And go out and sell that product or service. So we did that. We approached a company in America. We said, hey, we're in the UK and Europe. We want to license your video courses in the UK. How can we do that? So they said, look, it's simple. You need a license for that, and license is going to cost you $100,000, and we can get started. And I was like, I don't really want to spend any money up front. I want to try and see if we can create a collaboration here. So I jumped on a plane. I flew to the US. I went to go and see this company, very successful, multi-million-dollar training company, led by a female CEO. And I still remember that, sitting in the office waiting for her to come out of a meeting. And I was in her office looking at her bookshelf, and I saw all these really cool books from Dan Kennedy, Joe Vitale, and I spotted one particular book, a book by Jay Abraham. And I thought, you know what? She's going to know. Yeah, she's going to know about strategic partnerships. So we sat down, we had a conversation. I said, look, I'll guarantee you I will make more than $100,000 in the next couple of weeks for you if we can do some sort of deal here. So we ended up doing a licensing deal. I paid her $10,000 up front as a goodwill payment, and flew back to the UK, and now we had over 150 titles, all branded, licensed under our name. And that year, we did over a million turnover. We hit 7-figure turnover that year because of this the training courses we had. And the cost for us to hit $1 million, guess what that cost was? $10,000. So see, this is leverage, right? This is what I call leverage. Yeah, $10,000 is what it cost me to get that in. We had created all those training programs ourselves, it would have cost us over a couple of $100,000 easily. That would have been all the research and development and all the costs. But instead, I went to someone else who has a proven, tested program, which was already certified. It was being used by the US government, the US Army. So we had all those testimonials built in. So when people came to us and they said, oh, what's unique about you compared to this other competitor? I said, well, you know who uses our training? The US government, the US Army, Pentagon use our training. Yeah. So, testimonials like that are powerful because of our partnership and our collaboration with this business in the US.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso. Introducing Virtuo Up, the latest in a long line of innovation from Nespresso. It's innovation you can touch, sense, and taste in every single cup. With a 3-second start, easy open lever, and dedicated brew over ice button, it's even easier to enjoy your coffee your way. Sip for yourself. Shop Virtuo Up exclusively at Nespresso.com.
I love it. You know what's really interesting about what you just said as well, because, and you've highlighted this in this call, right? About the fact that when someone writes a testimonial about your course, your product, your service, it's 10 times more powerful than it just coming from you. Do you know what I mean? 100%.
Correct. And you can leverage that, by using other people's resources. This is the whole point of strategic partnerships. What you're doing is you're leveraging somebody else's resources. They are actually endorsing you at the same time. So so moving forward to 2006, right? So I was reading something called the Sunday Times Fast Track, and it's a magazine that shows you the 100 fastest growing companies in an industry. So we were obviously in IT. So I spotted a hardware company that sold computer hardware. They had 500,000 customers, and they were a 9-figure business. Now, I approach them the same way, and this is what I do for everyone listening. My approach is very simple. I say this: if I could show you how to create an additional revenue stream without increasing your overhead, would you be interested? That's always been my proposition. It's like people are like, huh? So I don't have to spend more money, but I can make more money, and that's what gets them. So I got this meeting with this company, 9-figure business, 500,000 customers, and they created computer hardware like PCs, laptops. Remember, we were in the e-learning software space. So this was a perfect partnership for us to get all of our e-learning software actually into their hardware. So every time a laptop or PC went out, it had our e-learning software built in, like Microsoft do, right? So I got this meeting with these company. It was a family-run business run by a chairman and CEO, father and son. I got to the meeting, I sat down, and I started talking. I was talking for 15 minutes. I said, look, we've done a couple of really great strategic partnerships, and they've been very successful, and we'd like to do the same with you. So I got 15 minutes into my pitch, and then the CEO, who was the son, got up and said, Sohail, we're not really interested in doing a partnership with you. And I was like, huh? Oh, I must have said something either to upset them, or I was trying to figure out what I said that was wrong.
Sure.
The chairman got up and said, well, Sohail, we're not actually interested in doing a partnership with you. We're actually interested in acquiring you. So I was like, okay. So by then I had 2 more partners, and we had an exit strategy about 3 years down the line. So I went back and I said to my partners, look, what should we do? They want to buy us because this was a company that had a very strong balance sheet, a lot of cash. They were just going out buying companies and acquiring companies. So and this was 2006. So I said to them, what should we do? So we sat down. We said, look, this is our baby. We're in the corporate space. We're in the B2B. They're in the B2C space. They want to acquire us because they want a corporate arm. So I said, let's do this. Let's not sell 100%. Let's sell a stake. So we negotiated with them, and we ended up selling a majority stake to them, part cash, part equity. And now we became part of a 9-figure business. I sat on the board of a 9-figure business, and we all became multimillionaires overnight from that deal. And then in 2008, I had a strategy to basically not retire, but I was going to cash out. I was going to work from 2006, build the business to 2008, and I was going to say, you know what, I want to do. It's time for me to do something else. So in 2007, I stepped down as managing director. So I started working on the business rather than in the business. We doubled the business in 2007. 2008 came across. And as you know, what happened in 2008 around the world, we had the dreaded recession. So one morning, we all got called into the office. The chairman of the group that owned our business said, guys, I've got some bad news. We've decided to liquidate the group. And I was like, oh, shit. Where does this leave us? So they had a conversation the night before. Something happened. We have no idea to this day what it was. It could have been a tax issue. It was something that forced them to liquidate the whole group. But what the chairman said to me that day was, don't worry, because we're going to form what is known as a Phoenix Corporation. And then a Phoenix Corporation is basically what they call a company that rises from the ashes. So they were going to transfer all the assets across from one company to a new entity and start again and dump the old one, right, under a new brand. But my idea was, look, if you could do this to us and you could do this to my business, what are you guys going to do down the line? So I said, sorry, but yeah, I don't trust you guys anymore. I cannot work with someone who has literally just decimated a business that had like a 93% profit margin e-learning software business. They basically killed the business. So one of the biggest mistakes I made was, and along with a couple of my other partners, is that we all signed guarantees with the bank because we thought this group had been around for 25 years, and we were like, there's no way they could go bust. They've been around for 25 years. So overnight, bang, they went. Because as you know, during the recession, a lot of brands went under as well. So there I was. There was a big debt to be paid. We were all liable. And guess who the bank came after? They came after the guy with the most assets, me. a guy with a 15-bedroom mansion, a guy with a couple of Ferraris, a couple of Porsches, a Bentley. So basically, one of the biggest mistakes I made back then was when I was a lot younger, I was very much ego-driven. I just wanted to be rich. Now I'm older. I know the difference between being rich and having wealth, right? Or accumulating wealth. Back then, I was like, I want the big house. I want all the cars. You can probably see the pictures on the internet. I was living in a 15-bedroom mansion. I had all the cars and whatever. I mean, our group even had a private jet. So this is how much back then. The ego thing was crazy. So there I was. I was the first person they came to, and I had a choice. Either I liquidate my assets and negotiate with the bank, or I file for bankruptcy, but I would have lost everything anyway. So I ended up negotiating with the bank and liquidating my assets and paying them off, and I was literally left with nothing. I went from multimillionaire to broke in a very, very short space of time. And let me tell you, in my career, when I used to speak on big stages, I met a lot of people in the audience who were much richer than I was. I mean, I was 8 figures, and they have never been able to recover from losing so much money, right? And it is very stressful, because what happens is when you lose everything, you still have you're still living that lifestyle, right? And you still have those expenses and what have you. So you're in survival mode. That's what happens. So for me, it was like, look, I don't know what to do. So luckily, I came back home to the family home. And the funny thing was, my mum, bless her, kept my room exactly like it was, because one day she knew her son would come back home. And I always tell that joke on stage. And I said, you know what? It was exactly like I left it. She knew I was coming back home. So there I was. Luckily, I had a roof over my head. However, I was very depressed. I went through a stage of depression, big time depression. I was like, I don't know what to do. What are my choices? I wasn't as depressed as in I want to take my life, but I was like, I don't know what to do. I mean, do I just give it up and go and do something else? Go to Africa and volunteer and just forget about business, or am I one of these entrepreneurs that makes a comeback? Yeah. So I was like, look, what can I do? So I sat there, and I still remember. My mother said to me, look, what are you going to do now? And I said, look, I'm bottom right now. I can't go any lower. There's only one way I can go, and that is up. And then she also said to me, look, just because you don't have the fancy bank account, you don't have the big mansion, you don't have all the cars, you still have everything in here that allowed you to build that business and become that person. So she goes, I'm sure if you wanted to, you could do it again. So one of the things that happened to me that led me through a different path was, in the same area, all my old friends from school and college were still living in the area, and they had their nice houses, nice cars, married. They had kids, they had a family, and they would talk to me and say, Sohail, actually, this was the funny thing. Not one of them would say to me, I'm really sorry to hear what happened to you. I'm sure everything will be okay. No, their thought to me was, you should have stayed in your job as a management consultant. Yeah, they said, why did you leave your job? You should have stayed in your job as a management consultant. You had a good salary, you had good security. I don't know why you went and set up your own business, because it's risky. Every single one of them. And it made me feel really, really bad. It made me feel like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Not one of these, my friends, right, local friends, has anything to say of what I've been through and what I'm going through. So I basically had to disappear. So I went and I spent some time in a monastery, right? For me, it was like, I want to go somewhere where nobody talks to me. Where can I go where nobody talks to me? A monastery, right? So I was like, I've got to try this. So
Monk Khan, everyone. Monk Khan.
Yeah. It was amazing, right? Because it was amazing, and I was taught a lot from these guys. I mean, they gave me access to this library they had, and in that library they had every single literature, from religion to philosophy to everything. And I was really surprised, because I thought, when you look at other religions, you think they just like to promote their own religions, right? But these guys were clever. They studied different religions, they studied different literature, philosophy, So it was amazing time for me. And I sat there and I thought to myself, okay, what do I need to do now, right? And what do I need to do? And one of the things they taught me was to control my thoughts, right? Because one of the things they used to mention was, thoughts control things. So they would say, you have the ability to control your thoughts, which controls your outer environment also. So it was amazing. So, I got taught this technique, this strategy of how to basically live inside my mind. And I know it sounds really bizarre because I always say this on a podcast. It's like, I have the ability, if the world was ablaze around me, I wouldn't feel the heat or the flames because I'd be living inside my mind, right? So I've managed to really confine that and fine tune that to a state where I can live in my mind basically, and I can create my own world inside my mind. I don't physically have to have that outside of my body. And the other thing also I said to people is you need to have a good belief system, right? And this is what I think saved me. And my belief system is obviously based on my religion. And what it teaches me is that this world is temporary. The final destination is going to be not in this world. It's going to be after, in the next life, where you obviously live eternally, right? So what that means is that whether you succeed or fail in this world, it doesn't matter. So don't beat yourself up that you didn't become a millionaire or a billionaire, or you didn't get to drive a Lamborghini, didn't get to own a Ferrari, didn't get to own a mansion. Don't beat yourself up, because that is not what matters. What matters is what you leave behind when you leave this world, right? So you've got to basically focus your efforts and your energies on making a difference that can be carried on when you are not here. So that is the greatest thing that you can do. So for me, that is what my pathway is now. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna go out and do stuff. I don't really give a shit. I'm gonna say, look, my philosophy nowadays is what would I do? My philosophy is, what would I do if I knew I could never fail? That's how I approach every single thing in my life, because failure is nothing. For me, it's experience. And the thing is, if I succeed or fail, it doesn't really matter, because that is not my directive of being on this planet, right? My directive on this planet is to do stuff and to make a bloody difference, right? And leave something behind that people can continue even when I'm not here. So that's one of the major things that has really made me what I am today.
This is what I love about this conversation, right? Because I mean, I was listening to your conversation with our good friend Nick Bradley. Now, I thought that was a fantastic conversation that you guys had. And like him, we share me and Nick share the same values, with family guys. You're a father as well. We share the same values. And I love some of the things that you were having from the conversation. So I want to take my hat off to you, Nick, as well, for having a great conversation with Sohail, because I think that to me, from someone that went from ego driven, which is what you were, to someone that is now what I call more purposeful and impactful, that to me is that's like 100 steps of growth. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's insane. I mean, listen, hats off to you for that. I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great stuff. Listen, I want to ask you something, because I know that all of this joint venture stuff, all this strategic partnership stuff, it sounds really easy. You make it sound so freaking easy, right? And I know what some of our listeners are thinking. They're thinking, this guy, he's like a Superman. Like, I literally, like, that the mindset is that I don't have the balls to go out and just ring up a company or say, hey, can I become one of your licensees, or can I become one of your street? Like, you do, because you've effectively created a blueprint that works for you. But what's your advice for some of our listeners that already created what I call these negative judgments, and they've already created a judgment based around what they're thinking in their head, rather than actually approach them, assuming that it's going to fail at the first hurdle? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I had a conversation this morning on Clubhouse about triggers and about negativity and the psychology behind it. So I think one of the things you've got to do, you've got to surround yourself with positivity. And how do you do that? You've got to either, number one, get yourself a mentor, or number two, get into a community of people that are doing the right things and the good things. Only then will you be able to move forward, because we always question ourselves because there's nobody else there to question us. There's nobody else there to support us. There's nobody else there to rally us. We, in essence, and especially entrepreneurs, man, we've got to rally ourselves. We don't have anyone behind us. We don't have a team. We don't have like a team meetings. We don't have, we don't have fans. Some of us have followers, but we don't really have fans who really understand us. As entrepreneurs, we're always on our own. So I think you've got to surround yourself with the right people. And I think also one of the things that I would always say is at least have one high-level conversation every day. At least one high-level conversation every day. And like we've got things like Clubhouse, we've got Instagram, we've got so much social media platforms. Make some friends, get in the right community, and just reach out to people. Have one powerful conversation every day, and I guarantee you will easily get rid of that negativity, because you'll see what people are doing, how they're doing it, and then that you could succeed by doing the same thing.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to say, and that's some really great points there as well, is the other thing I was going to say is study what the other people are doing, because if it's working for them, it's going to work for you. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
100%. All right.
And the thing is, look, yeah, and I think also you've got to go out and actually do it. That's the thing, right? So many people I meet, I talk to, they study, they read, they study, they read. Now I have the mindset. Yeah, you've got the mindset, but what about the implementation? So I think you have to at least try something. If you can't try one thing every day, try one thing every week. Try one new thing every month. Do something new. Challenge yourself. And the thing is, it's not failure, it's experience. The more you do something, the more better you will become at it as well. So
it's a great point you make there. And last week I was actually talking, what was I speaking about? It was sometime last week, but I was talking about the difference between implementers and sponges, right? A sponge is someone that basically absorbs, right? And doesn't do a lot, right? They just absorb, and they just kind of absorb all the information. They listen in and they nod their heads thinking, oh, that's a great idea. But then when it comes to practical application, that's where their downfall is, and they just don't move forward. So guys, if you're listening in, don't become a sponge like many other people do. Listen, here's an interesting point, because I know that some of the listeners that are listening in are not well known in their industry. They're not what we call influencers or thought leaders. And again, I think one of the great conversations that you had with Nick was around the whole kind of, what can I do? How can I use my credibility, maybe a pitch or whatever it is? How should they approach joint ventures and partnerships if they don't have the necessary industry credibility?
That's a good question. And, one of the powerful things about collaborations is that you can leverage other people's credibility and other people's fame. So, and I'll give you an example. At the beginning, I was virtually unknown. Nobody knew who I was. And I still remember that time. And I'll tell you more about my comeback story, and it'll relate to how that I got the invite. So basically, straight after I lost everything, I set myself a challenge. I came back and I was refreshed, and I said, you know what? I'm going to set myself a challenge to make $1 million in 12 months. I'm going to do like 5 or 6 joint ventures, because I've done it before, right? So I set myself a challenge, but then I ended up doing one joint venture deal in 30 days that made me just over $1.5 million. And that is how I came back very, very quickly. So, and a lot of people don't recover after they lose everything. They don't recover. So I was very fortunate that not so long after I lost everything, I came back and I made that a goal. I made that promise to myself. I ended up doing just one JV deal in 30 days that made me $1.5 million. And that put me on the map, right? So what happened was, I was talking about it on social media. Someone reached out to me and said, hey, come to our summit in the US. I want you to speak on stage about how you lost everything and you came back. So for me, that was an opportunity, right? So I flew to the US. Nobody knew who I was. I was a nobody. So I was on stage at this big event in the US. I spoke about my story and my journey. Everyone clapped. I came off the stage, and 3 people walked up to me and said, hey, come and sit with us. We want to have a chat with you. So these 3 people were some big gurus in the internet marketing space. especially in the joint venture space. I didn't know who they were, but they were at that time, they were the three biggest gurus in that space. They sat down and said, look, we want to help you, right? Nobody knows who you are, but everyone knows who we are. How do you fancy coming together with us and creating something that we can do based on joint ventures? So we set up something called the Joint Venture University. We all got together, and it was three of the biggest internet marketing gurus, and there was little old me in the middle there as well. And that is how I became joint venture expert, because I was the only one on that program that had the British accent. They were all Americans, and my name was attached. My name was attached to theirs. So it's like seeing a billboard when you go and see a rock concert, right? It's blah blah blah, and then my name's there as well. Nobody knows who I am, but because I have my name next to, like, let's say Mick Jagger or whatever, or these rock stars, people assume I'm a rock star as well. So that is leveraging credibility through collaborations and partnerships. So one of the things that you can do, if you're not the authority in your space, approach someone who is and say, hey, and one of the things that I did earlier on also is interviews. If you interview people in their space, you will also become known as an expert in the space also. So people have done that. It's a strategy that a lot of people have done by doing expert interviews, right, and becoming an authority. And then I think the way I became really well known, especially in the US, I became the #1 joint venture expert around the world, and the #1 joint venture speaker in the US, because that's what I was doing. After that, I got invited to so many events to speak about my story. Events from a couple of hundred people in a room to a couple of thousand people in a stadium. So I really built my credibility through becoming the joint venture expert. And to be honest with you, if you go back through the internet and have a look over the last 15, 20 years, I've never ever done anything different. I've always done joint ventures and strategic partnerships and consulting in that space. So I've never deviated. Like a lot of people nowadays, they're an expert in one thing, but then when some shiny object comes, they become an expert in that. I've never done that. I've always been synonymous. Yeah, and that's why people reach out to me, because they do their research and say, there's only one joint venture expert, and that's you. We looked at all your videos spanning back the last 10, 15, 20 years, and you've been consistent, and this is what you do. And like I say, nowadays I'm semi-retired. I sold my last consulting business in 2017 for 8 figures. That was a partnership as well. I created a methodology, a training program. I partnered with one of the largest sales training organizations in North America. We did a 50-50 strategic partnership, and they licensed all my material, and then they wanted 100% of the pie. So they said, you know what, we like the 50% deal, but now we want 100%. So what do you want for your IP? So I sold the IP to them. A couple of years before that, they made me an offer. I said, if you put another 0 at the end, I'll think about it. And then a couple of years later, they came back and they put another 0, and it was 8 figures. And then 2017, I made the decision to basically sell. I sold my IP, and then I retired in 2017. So, I've got 2 young kids. I spend a lot of time with my kids and my family, and that's what it is now. So I'm really here to give back. And Clubhouse has also been fantastic. Again, Clubhouse is another collaboration, another joint venture. I am not the expert in the room. I'm not a VC. I'm not really like an angel, a well-known angel investor. But on the stage, but in my community, on the stage, we've got a couple of $1 billion worth of funds under management from VCs and angel investors. So all I've done is, I'm a joint venture broker. I broker deals. I train other joint venture brokers around the world as well. This is what we do. And I'm just a facilitator. I brought everyone together. I've created a collaboration, and we launched the Pitch Club. On Clubhouse, we now have 55,000 members, and we are actually the largest pitch room on Clubhouse. And that is all from everyone else, really, because they are the experts. I'm just the facilitator. I am the JV guy, right?
You're the glue. You're the glue, as they like to call it. Love it. Well, listen, here's a really interesting thing for me, Sohail. Over the last 18 months, I've discovered something absolutely amazing, right? Which is all around building a tribe, right? Building a tribe. And obviously it takes some work to build a tribe, right? But I'd like to know from you, Sohail, right? What are the links between building a tribe and using the tactics of scaling up through partnerships? Any thoughts there?
That's a really good question. I think one good thing with building a tribe is, and I'll give you an example. I disappeared off the radar in 2017. And then I came back, I got bored, came back out of retirement in 2019. Now, because of my tribe and because of my following, I managed to carry on where I left off, right? So that's the power of a tribe. The power of a tribe is having access to that. And it's again, if I disappeared for a year and came back, nothing would have changed. So having a tribe is very important. Having a following is very important. Having consistency in your brand is very important. So I think a tribe is very important to have because you need to have that. And for example, remember when recently Facebook went down, Instagram went down, WhatsApp went down, people were freaking out. And everyone that must have been getting emails from people saying, hey, you should have had an email list. You should have had an email list. Your email list is also your tribe, right? Because that is how we keep in touch with people. When I disappeared for 2 years, I would periodically, every 3 months, still keep in touch with my people and say, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm currently doing. I did a couple of surveys. So I still kept in touch with my tribe, even though I was nowhere to be seen. So having a tribe is very, very important. And I think for me, it's been able to be a godsend for me. I've been around for 15, 20 years doing the same thing day in, day out. So, and there's still a demand for what I do. So I think it's very important. Strategic partnerships are great also. Strategic partnerships are great to scale, okay, and grow. If, for example, even if you have a startup, for example, you can scale and grow a startup very quickly. Strategic partnerships are always going to be out there, so you can always find a good strategic partnership or a good strategic partner. And what I tend to do, my strategy with strategic partnerships is acquisition, right? Is to be acquired by your strategic partner. So Nick, for example, this is why I love him to death. Him and me, we have the same brain waves, and I am, hopefully, fingers crossed, if I can do it, I want to plan something with Nick, and we want to plan on doing some sort of mastermind where we are going to show people. This is just off the top of my head, how to grow and scale using strategic partnerships and acquisitions, and also to exit. So for me, the most important thing I say to people is, look, everyone talks about recurring income, right? Recurring income is good, but you're still on the bloody hamster wheel because you have to maintain that recurring income, right? A lot of people who have membership sites, for example, you've got to create content, and I can't do that. I am very lazy where I am right now, because for me, I don't need to work. I don't need the money, and I don't really want to do, I don't want to do more, put it that way. But when it comes to strategic partnerships, it's very easy. So for me, I say to people, look, if you want to build a real business, build a business that you can eventually sell, and then just sit on your backside and just decide what you want to do in your life. If you want to take time off, if you've got kids and a family and you don't want to work, don't work. If you want to just dabble and you're not afraid to experiment with new things like NFTs, for example, right?
Yes.
You can do that because you have money in the bank. You don't have to run a business again. You don't have employees. You don't have staff. You can do whatever the hell you want. So that's what I would call my philosophy on business is build, grow, scale a business, whether that's via strategic partnerships or via acquisitions, and then just sell it, cash out, and then just take some time off, because, we're not getting any younger. And the thing is, especially if you have a family, most entrepreneurs that I know that are building businesses and are making loads of money, they have a family to support, right? And it's a constant hamster wheel for them. That's what it is. You don't see it on social media. They portray that they're making money, and they are. I speak to these guys all the time. Every week, 1 or 2 multimillionaires get on a phone call with me and have a conversation about how can they cash out. How can they leave this rat race? One person right now, and I'm not going to mention her name, is doing very, very well. I think she's making a couple of $1 million a month, right? She's very well known on social media. I have regular conversations with her. She goes, Sohail, help me sell my business. Help me exit this. It's just, I feel like I'm on a bloody hamster wheel,
But the other thing that I was going to say as well is using the formula, what I've called OPM, other people's money, acquiring through using other people's money. And I think that's what you were talking about with you and Nick, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways that we say is that you can acquire somebody else's resources, like their customer database and their list, but you only acquire it on a temporary basis. Another way, in terms of what Nick teaches, is you can acquire a business, absorb that revenue, income, that goodwill, those testimonials. You can also absorb the customer into your business. So, for example, a lot of people have approached me recently and said, "Look, we've just launched this business. We're doing really, really well. Do you recommend we go down the acquisition route to build this business and acquire more customers through acquisition?" So this is what highly things that Nick teaches, for example, and it's very similar. So another aspect is if you acquire a business and you want to grow that business, then you can use strategic partnerships to go out and create more business for that business, to boost that business, and then to flip that business. So there's many different avenues to doing this.
Love it. Here's another thing that I had in my, because I mean, you must have been sat around the table, I don't know, hundreds of times with companies, with investors, with joint venture, capital ventures, whatever it might be. You must have spent hundreds of thousands of conversations. My question to you is, when do you walk away when do you know if it's a good deal or a bad deal? What are some of the warning signs that you walk away? Because I know that there are some people out there and they get around, say, they get around a table with some investors, they're pitching, that say they're raising money or raising capital for their business or whatever it might be. And for whatever reason, they don't walk away, or they're thinking in their head, they're thinking to themselves, is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? Whatever it is. But have you got any stories to share about some of the times where you've walked away from the table where you thought, you know what, this is a bad deal and this is the reason why? Any thoughts there?
You know what? Suppose recently I bid on a Ferrari F40, one of my dream cars, and the bidding went through the roof. It went way through the roof. It went basically more than double than what I was prepared to pay. Wow. But I was still in the game. But I had to walk away because that's when emotion takes over, right? So you've got to be careful. What you've got to establish is you've got to know what you can afford to comfortably lose. That's what you've got to know. You've got to know what that bottom line is, right? And when you go into negotiation like that, you've got to stick to your guns. You've got to have a minimum requirement. And also in a negotiation, you've got to also make it look like the other side or the other party is winning. So you've got to have your minimum requirement, because what happens in a negotiation like that, the other party wants to win. I mean, everyone wants to win in a deal, right? But what you've got to be able to do is you've got to be able to come in and you've got to know what your minimum is that you're prepared to walk away with, and stick to that. Even if it sounds like the other party have got more or got one over you. At the end of the day, you've got what you wanted at the minimum requirement that you were prepared, or even the maximum requirement that you were prepared. You've got to have that in there. And then you can walk away. And if they feel they've won the deal, it doesn't matter, because you've got the deal also at that maximum point that you were prepared to go to. So I'd say, that is what I would recommend.
Love it. Here's another thing as well. The other thing I was going to say is, how do you control your emotions? Because I know that I guess when you first went into the joint venture strategic alliance game, I guess you must have been quite emotional when it came to the outcome of whatever it is that you were pitching for, or whatever it is that you were presenting for. Do you have any advice of people that are, I wouldn't say they're what I call a big bag of emotions, but what advice do you have for people that are that take things too personal? Do you know what I mean? And really think about the emotional side of stuff. Any thoughts there, Sal?
I think with me, the way I was planning, and you've got to have experience. You've got to have experience to be able to control those emotions. If you're an emotional person, it's very difficult to do from the offset. But you've got to have a focus. You've got to have a fixed focus on something. So again, like I say, this is why you need to have a belief system, whether it's religious, whether it's scientific, whether it's whatever it is, non-religious. You need to have a belief system that you can hold on to when everything around you falls down, right? So it's very important you have that. So build a belief system, regardless of whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a religious belief system, but you need to have a belief system that basically allows you to hold on to that belief system and grasp that belief system, and it gives you the ability to walk away from certain situations or control certain situations.
You know, it's interesting because I know that one of our friends, actually, Simon Ong, who actually talks about belief systems a lot. He's on Clubhouse a lot with us and things like that. He talks a lot about belief systems and the importance of belief systems in place and whatever it is. So I absolutely 100% agree with you on that. I suppose we're coming towards the end of our interview. And I suppose the other thing that I wanted to ask you really was, I suppose in order, for me, like same for you, I'm sure that you turn on your computer in the morning and then you've already got half a dozen opportunities. You've already got half a dozen people approaching you, whatever it might be, right? But let me ask you a question. How do people that are listening in, whether you be an entrepreneur, investor, whatever it might be, how do we become more aware of the opportunities that are out there? Because I think perceptual awareness is so important in the game of business and entrepreneurship. What's your advice for people that they might think that there's no opportunities for them, but there's loads of opportunities out there for them? Any advice for people like that? Where do they start?
That's a good question. Sometimes you have to create the opportunity yourself, or sometimes you have to be able to identify an opportunity if it presents itself. So I would say to people, have as many conversations as you can. The more conversations you have with people, the more opportunities will present themselves. So, spend your time having, quality conversations with people, and then opportunities will present themselves. Otherwise, go out and create your own opportunities. So that's the best advice I can give.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Very cool. Listen, I suppose my final question, give us 3 top tips to people that are thinking, do you know what? This stuff sounds really good. I think I'm going to start putting this in my own business. But what are the 3 top tips about how to get started in using JVs and strategic alliances? 3 top tips. Any thoughts?
Very easy. Number 1, identify your ideal customer avatar. Who is the ideal customer that you serve? Number 2, go out and find that ideal customer audience. What does that core customer audience look for? Number 3, go and find someone who controls or has access to that customer audience that you're after, and do a JV or a strategic partnership with them. Get them to endorse your product or service to their customer audience. Hope that helps.
Love it. Love it. So guys, hope you have been enjoying some of the conversations, whether it be broken or unbroken, by the way. But listen, Sohail, I just want to say thanks very much for being on the show today. We've covered a lot of stuff. Like literally, this is like, I don't know about you, but I feel like this has been like a deep dive masterclass in how you can really go deep with this stuff. I mean, I've got like 2 pages of notes already just from standing here and sort of having a great conversation. So I just want to say thanks very much and really appreciate you being on the show today, buddy.
Yeah, I can say for anyone out there listening, I wrote a very pivotal book a couple of years on the actual subject of joint ventures with my late mentor, Jay Conrad Levinson, who's the founder of Guerrilla Marketing. And that book was Guerrilla Marketing and Joint Ventures. That book is normally $30 on Amazon, but I'd like to give that book to everyone for free. So if you want a copy of the book, just go to freejointventurebook.com. That's freejointventurebook.com, and you can download the book for there.
Very cool. That is excellent. So guys, listen. So if you want Sohail's best-selling book, which he wrote back in 2014 with his business partner, then you can get it for free rather than paying the $30, which is called Guerrilla Marketing. If you go to the website freejointventurebook.com, hopefully I said that correctly, and you will be able to get a free copy of that book completely for free. And you get some great leverage as well. You can get some great knowledge just based on these conversations. So I just want to say thanks very much to you, Sohail. We're going to be hanging out on Clubhouse. I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot more stuff. And I'm looking forward to doing some more collaborations with you guys, with you, Sohail, especially over the next coming months. I'm really excited about where that could potentially take us. And for you guys that want to come and join us, feel free to reach out because, you got to be in it to win it, as I like to say. So from me and Sohail, I just want to say thanks very much and hope you're having a fantastic day and hope you've enjoyed today's show. So thanks very much from me and Sohail, and we'll see you soon. Take care and see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, you guys, I just want to say thank you so much for listening in to this episode of the Game Changers Experience. I hope that you got some amazing value, some great insights, and golden nuggets that you can implement into your business straight away. I would really, really appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review on the button below. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next